Welcome to the Graybeard Chronicles podcast. Your hosts, Brian Halstead and Kevin Harkins, are two gray-bearded patriots who love God, their family and friends, and their country. The Graybeards are here to inspire, inform, and educate you on a myriad of topics they are passionate about. Brian and Kevin have a strong desire to share this with you to help you live your best life. Sit back and enjoy this amazing podcast as the Graybeards pass along the wisdom of the ages.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Graybeard Chronicles. I'm Brian Halstead.
And I'm Kevin Harkins.
And Kevin, we're here to pass along some wisdom of the ages. What the heck does that mean?
We're not perfect, but we do have gray beards. And that means we've got some significant life experience, some life lessons, and some perspectives that are worthy of passing along.
Well, I think that sums it up nicely. Let's get to it. Kevin, good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening, Brian. I'm doing outstanding. Thank you.
Very good.
How about you?
I am outstanding. Very good to see you.
You as well. Our audience can't see, but you have these mindful cards on the desk down there. I was happy to see those.
You know, it's kind of interesting how the universe speaks to you, right?
Yeah.
So we have a guest that we'll introduce here in a second that just happens to be an expert in the area of mindfulness. And so I was looking for something else today, and I opened a drawer and these mindfulness cards that one of my daughters, and I can't specifically remember which one it was. I think I know, but I don't want to say it wrong. So,
yeah.
But she'd given it to me as a birthday present, I think it was. And these cards were there when I opened up the drawer, and I was like, oh, isn't that interesting? So,
have you used them?
When I first got them,
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And I looked through them again today. So, but that was my sign that they need to be out.
That was your omen.
They're out now.
There you go. Yeah, I look forward to talking about it some more.
Yeah, me too. And like I said, we do have an expert on the subject with us tonight. We have Dr. Eric Holsapple, and he is a successful entrepreneur, and he's used mindfulness in his own transformation of his life and business, and now he's on a mission to help others do the same thing. He's got a PhD in economics, and he's been a real estate CEO and developer for nearly 40 years, and he's practiced yoga and meditation for 30 years. And I'm certainly interested to hear more about all of that, because I think those last two things in particular, in my mind anyways, kind of play into the whole mindfulness and helping promote that. So Eric, Dr. Holsapple, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be on.
All right, so tell us about this mindfulness, and well, first off, what is your definition of mindfulness?
You know, one word definition would be focus, and that, you know, not just any focus, but can we fill our mind, focus on what we want to focus on, and know when we're there and know when we're not. You know, we all come in and out. So it's focus and ability to pay attention to something that we want to pay attention to.
And so when you're focusing, this is a constant battle that I'm having internally myself. You know, focusing on the future, focusing on the past, focusing on the present. I think it's all about the present, forgetting the past and all of that. But do you want to comment on that?
Well, I mean, even if you're thinking about the past, if you're mindful of it, you can be present. You know, if you're thinking about making a plan for the future, you can be present to that planning. But the thing is that you want to be, if you're having a conversation with somebody, I want to be present to the two of you and to the audience, right? When I'm here, not thinking about my past and future while I'm here doing this. That wouldn't be being mindful. But just the act of looking at the history of myself or looking at the future doesn't necessarily mean it's not mindful, but it should be kind of as a focused activity. And we find that, you know, it's just not, we multitask in this society so much, and we end up we're just splitting our focus up so much we haven't really focused on anything. So it's all kind of, you know, under the radar screen. We can operate, you know, we can drive the car and eat the sandwich and play the radio and talk on the phone and do all of it, but are we really focusing on any of it? So
yeah, one of your favorite guys, Jack Canfield, wrote a book on focus.
Right, the power of focus.
Power of focus, and
he's amazing.
Yeah, he's an amazing man. So
yeah,
sure you've read that book. But
Yeah.
was that focus before it was mindfulness? Is that maybe?
I don't know if I've read books of his. I don't know if I've read that one to be
Okay.
sure. But there's longer definitions of mindfulness. But for the simplest part of it is focus. I think the ability to focus.
Yeah.
Not just on anything, but on what we choose to focus on.
Yeah.
And if we're focused on everything, we've got our smartphones going, we've got advertising, we've got all this stuff going. If we're focusing on everything, we're really focusing on nothing.
Yeah.
So, we have a lot of ability to operate on different levels of consciousness, but can we choose to be where we want to be?
Yeah. Well, I think if we use our eye, the human eye as an example, you can only focus on one object at a time. You might have others in your view, but you can only truly focus on one object at a time. If you think about, the sight picture they teach in firearms, you've got several things that are in your view, right? You're looking at the front sight, the rear sight, the target, other things that may be going on around you, but you're only clearly focused on that front sight post because that's what matters.
Right.
And where that thing is.
Right.
And I think, to your point, multitasking, you can only focus on one thing. You might be giving others energy, but you really truly can only focus on one thing.
Sometimes a couple, but not much more than that. It's limited. I mean, we can do a lot of things.
Right.
We can multitask. I mean, we're proving it. We can do a lot of things, and we're kind of automatically or autonomously. We do a lot of things, walking and doing, all these things. But are we really paying attention? And I think not most of the time.
Yeah. For me personally, I know that when I'm truly focused on anything, doesn't matter what it is, you just do it. You do it so much quicker, so much better, so much more return on your investment of that time when you do it. And that's it. If there's only one takeaway that people might get from tonight, it would be focus on what you're doing.
Well, and let's take human interaction. I mean, how many times my wife will tell you, I come in from a busy day and I'm talking with her and supposedly there, but my mind is still back at the office or with the email that I didn't get done or something else. So and I can still interact with her, but I can tell you, she knows I'm not present.
Right.
I
appreciate you saying that, because that's, for me, I think before I learned and was exposed to the term or the idea of mindfulness, presence is what I called this thing that,
I love that
could be an interchangeable term, where you've got to be present. You've got to be interacting and engaged in that moment. And I think in many ways, mindfulness means that same thing.
Yeah, and not just your body being there, but are you focused? Are you paying attention to what you're doing? So, and the other thing I always tell people with kids, your kids know, they can tell.
Oh yeah.
If you want to have a little test, they know if you're actually there or if you're just playing the role of babysitter and, but actually on your texts and the reading and, your mind is 1,000 miles away. So they're good. Your family are good tests for you to let you know if you're really there or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amen to that. And they still do, right? They'll, because they hear us talk about stuff on the podcast regularly, and, we all, slip sometimes and might not be engaging in something that we, put out there as the way we want to show up. Right. And my family is certainly not, does not hesitate to call me out on it.
Right. Right.
And on the business front, I mean, that listening, I say, is one of the key skills of, if you're trying to build a client base or anything, listen to somebody. Actually listen to them. Don't multitask while they're talking. Actually listen and pay attention. Be inquisitive about what they're actually saying, and you're much more likely to land the account than if you're just busy getting ready to, prepare for what you're going to say. How you're going to just slide in there and make the sale. If you just actually listen, your response will come naturally to it.
So I've got a question as far as business. I'm glad you brought that up, because I wanted to ask a question about how in your mind and in your experience, can you implement this in a business practice? So maybe from two different perspectives, right? As an individual, and then as a say a CEO, and you want to implement this from the top down. What guidance would you offer people?
Well, and that was my journey. I started, with yoga, and then transcended into meditation, Several years after, yoga got me interested, and then I transcended into meditation. Then I was kind of a closet meditator, just kind of meditated on my own. I'd go in the office, but then a little bit at a time, people started noticing a change in me at my office and got a little bit interested in it. And then one at a time, I started small, and we just had what's called the seed group meeting, where we just read a book, maybe center a little bit. Sometimes the word meditation is a little spooky for people, just centering and be there and really get to know each other different, because I find at work we know some niceties about each other, some specifics, but so many times we really don't know what matters to the other person or what's really going on with them. So we've used it to also get to know each other on a whole nother level. And so it started small with a few people. And then before I knew it, a few months later, the room was full. A dozen people, 15 people. We're not a big company. We had about 25, but they were, half the company was coming into these meetings to learn mindfulness. And enough, I find if you have, that kind of 50% or so, it's enough to shift the culture. The company, everybody doesn't meditate in our company. I don't think that's the goal. Being more mindful, more aware, more present is the goal. Having a half or so of the people meditate is helpful, because it's maybe the most direct practice for busy professionals. Now, if you're out in nature, have a lot of time and things like that, it might not be as necessary. But for most of the people, how we're running on emails and podcasts and this and that and run, it's to have some focus time on focus is very helpful. Anyway, I think it's I haven't met anybody, and I run a program called Living in the Gap, which is mindfulness leadership. So I haven't met anybody that's instituted mindfulness that their business hasn't gotten better, that their stress level hasn't gone down and their business hasn't gotten better. Now, I don't think that's the interpretation. I'm searching for the right word, but I think a lot of business people are feel that that's a little bit airy-fairy, and they don't have time for that because they're too busy making money, or it's not as important as that. But I found that it's the same thing. Focus, there's nothing contrary in focus to making a profit.
Right.
In my view.
What is could you tell our audience, what does living in the gap mean to you? Can you describe exactly?
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It's not obvious, but we have some 6,000 thoughts a day. Okay, so often, we're this continual dialogue of thoughts. A lot of them are repetitive, a lot of repeating, but the gap is like when thoughts slow down a little bit and you create a gap in between when one thought stops and another one begins. Because we find that peace and joy and happiness are in those gaps, and that quietness when the mind slows down. Like when you look at some beautiful piece of art or beautiful sunset or something, you go, wow. What's happening is the mind is quieting, slowing down. And that stress, tension, and those things are in thought. When we're really stressful and really thought, you can really tell that you're probably really in your head, really thinking about something rather than in the moment. So it's in that, and it takes a while. So we start to try to have a disassociation between ourselves and our thoughts. And then the gap is when there are actually some spaces, and they don't have to be too big, but just some wow space, just like, that. It's the gap. And that's where life happens, in my view.
Okay. And that's a good description. Thank you.
So somebody that's new to meditation, what guidance would you offer them to start off, to start down that path?
Start really slow. We start with 2 minutes, and the consistency is more important than duration. So if you can do 2 minutes every day, or 3 times a week, or 5 times a week, or whatever, you can be kind of consistent, and even the same time of day. Start with 2 minutes, and then when that becomes more or less a habit, move to 5. But start slow and steady and try to be consistent. I find that when we first start, our mind is so active that it can be counterproductive to try to be a long setting, because you just come away with, I can't do this. This is too crazy. My mind's going nuts. But for 2 minutes, it isn't too bad. You get it, and then the mind starts slowing down. You start really enjoying it, and you want to go a little bit more. You go a little bit more.
And what is it? What are you actually doing for these 2 minutes?
Well, you're focusing on something other than your thoughts, typically your breath or a mantra, a word, those kind of things. I like breath meditation because it's so accessible all day long. You know, you're always breathing. So anytime I can come back and feel like just notice myself breathing, like if you want to have an exercise, just close your eyes just for a second and just hear yourself breathe.
Okay.
That's meditation. That's presence.
Okay.
And that's kind of the simplest kind of access. It's just listening to your breath is an immediate kind of access to it. And it's just when you're paying attention to something else, the thought slows down.
Yeah, interesting. Because Brian and I have had this discussion over a couple of years, or maybe even more than a couple.
Yeah. I think we should quit talking about it and actually do it.
Well, I mean, I have a morning routine that I go through, and I call it my own meditation, but it's not that. It's not what Eric just mentioned. It's not focusing on my breath there's many things that I focus on.
Right.
But I'll take my time, and the first thing and the second thing and the third thing, and these are just important principles or important things or ways to behave or ways or being grateful. I'll focus on being grateful is that meditation? I don't know.
It's mindfulness. It's in my morning routine every day. Gratitude is the lowest hanging fruit there is. I think it's just I have immediate mindset change.
Okay.
And they actually find that there's like an afterglow of it, that when you put yourself in a state of gratefulness, you start looking for things to be grateful for.
Yeah.
You start noticing those things versus when you're angry, you're looking for other things to piss you off, that make you angry. So there's an afterglow to it.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. It's very, very powerful, but
it really is.
I don't know if I'd call it meditation because, and I know I've seen, I've watched, I've heard about yoga people and doing that, and I've listened.
It's mindfulness because you're focusing on gratitude.
Okay.
You're focusing on that. You're in a one-pointed focus on being grateful for something. That's gratitude.
Okay.
Now you could do a meditation where it was just a word that you were gratefulness or something else. You could repeat that word or something and pay attention to that word and turn it into a meditation. But meditation is really becoming familiar with something. So
that's a cool idea.
Becoming familiar with my breath, becoming familiar. You could use that word just over and over again.
Okay. I declare that I'm meditating.
Try it.
That's it.
Why I like the breath is that I'm breathing all day long, hopefully.
You bet.
Yeah.
And I notice after years of meditation, when I get stressed, I automatically notice myself breathing. Rather than that reaction, which I still have. I still have them, but hopefully I can pause a little bit after it comes. And I just notice myself breathing. And when I do, it makes me present and I can deal with anything. So hopefully.
Yeah.
So far I've been able to.
Right. No, I just think when you're calmer, by going through this exercise, you're in a stressful situation, and all of a sudden you have the presence of mind after 30 years of practice. All right, I'm going to just take a minute and focus on my breathing, and it causes you to calm down. And then, of course, we all know that when you're calmer, you can A, be more focused, B, make better decisions, C, be more interpersonal in a way that people can relate to you. All of those things are positive benefits from just sort of slowing down and
be able to be present. If this is going 100 miles an hour, it's really hard to be present because it's driving the bus. Your brain is driving the bus and your thoughts. A mindful walk can be great if you're not, if meditation is not for you and you can't do it. You just really look up at the trees and really just just really look at it though. But I find people go for a walk, they bring their phone with them. No, just leave it behind, take a little walk, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, the world will still be there when you get back.
Right.
Take a little walk and just fill your mind with, not just reminiscing of thoughts and whatnot, but really fill your mind with the nature, with the trees, with the park, or wherever it is you walk. Fill your mind with that stuff for a few minutes can have a great impact on mindfulness too.
Yeah, I have found that it's helpful just to walk away from a little while and, for a little while, just go outside and, take in some fresh air, and it is a little bit of a reset button.
If I get upset, I do that all the time. Like, kids can do it better than anybody. I'll say, I got to take a walk. I'll be back in a minute. I'm 10 times better off doing that and coming back and say, okay, let's handle this.
All right.
So definitely.
Very cool.
To pull the thread a little bit on the, I've never met anybody who practiced mindfulness focus and had their business suffer. There's a line that I heard you say in a couple different times about increase your affluence and you will increase your influence. And so if you're wanting to have bigger influence in your life in whatever sphere of influence that you run in, taking the time to figure out how to improve your affluence is not a bad thing to do. And mindfulness, yeah.
Well, I tie it into purpose. I don't think
Okay.
profit's a purpose. I don't think money's a purpose. Purpose is something bigger than that. Like for me, presence is a purpose, just to be alive and know that I'm alive and those kind of things. Profit's what allows me to do things. So when I think I used to, when I first came at this work, most of the stuff I read was in Eastern texts that, a lot of it was, you got to give away all your possessions and, beg and sit on a mountaintop. But the more I studied and the more I looked at it, that's a practice for a renunciate, but I'm a person with responsibilities. I got kids, I got a job, I got, teach, I do all this stuff. So it's different for us, but I can make a bigger difference if I have some affluence. If I go to Habitat Board or the food bank and I can give some time and some money, it's going to make a bigger difference.
You bet.
Than if I don't have any affluence. So yeah. I say, what's your why? What I find is too many professionals making money and they don't know why, and they, it's the money becomes the be all and the end all. And I don't think that leads to happiness. I want the money to work for me. I don't want to work for the money.
So would you say in your own personal life, this idea of purpose, is that it? Just to be present in your life every day? Is that for you? Is that what your purpose is?
My purpose is now without, for a long time that was it, because that was a full-time job.
Right.
And it still is a lot of times to be present. It's not, I'm not here because I think it's easy. I'm here because I need it and I have to work at it, and I do work at it. But now for me, it's sharing presence to the business community. I really think business is the melting pot of the world and can help us solve a lot of these problems that we're dealing with. Because we have everybody on every political, every race, every gender, and it doesn't, to me, make sense to differentiate anybody if I'm in business. I think it can be a great melting pot. And if we can instill mindfulness in business, when somebody gets it at work, they take it home, they have it in their family. They go to church, they have it there. They go to the school board meeting, they bring it with them. When they go to coach the soccer on the weekend, they bring it with them. We've got guys that are, doing that kind of stuff on the soccer teams they coach, just teaching the kids a little bit of mindfulness. It's huge. I think business, and how much time do we spend? 8-10 hours a day at work? If mindfulness is just for a minute before we go to work and at 7 o'clock when we're home and exhausted, I don't think it's much of a practice. Yeah. It's gonna be hard. It's better than not, but I don't see anything contrary to business. And I love business, and I don't see anything contrary to business being a little more mindful, a little more community oriented.
Couldn't agree more. For years, decades ago, people talked about keep your personal life and your business life separate.
Still do.
That doesn't work. You're the same person in both places. So when you improve yourself here, it's going to bleed over into every aspect of your life. Yeah.
Totally. And can you be? I found myself not being that for years. I looked at it. I'd go to work and I was one person. I'd go to the university, teach a class. I was something else. I go to my kids, I'm something else. And I just looked at it for a while and said, boy, wouldn't it be relieving if I could just be the same person walking into every place? And it is. It's a much, I can't say I have it mastered, but I notice it now. I'm aware of it, a little differently. So yeah, it's a great practice.
So you mentioned work and teaching. I think you also have a nonprofit. Of course, you have a family.
Yes.
How do you keep all those balls in the air and give them all their due attention?
I play baseball. I've got a little system that I've set up on priorities, and I call it baseball. It's just like, I think my first job is to do my personal work, my own awareness work, my own, mindfulness work. So I say that has to happen in the morning, and I want that to happen. That's home plate. The pitcher's mound is life. That pitch is going to come at me. I don't know what it's going to be every day. But before that first pitch comes, I'd like to know I'm in the right mindset. I'm grateful. I'm in a present mindset. So no matter what comes, I know to handle it. And then I want to take care of my family and friends. Before I go to work, I want to make sure my family and friends are taken care of, because that's why I go to work, to make sure my family is taken care of, and I can do things personally. So I make sure they're taken care of. That's first base. If I go to work before my family's taken care of, I say I get thrown out for missing first base. Second base is work. I can't tell you how many times I go down the hall and people are texting on Facebook and everything because they're dealing with their family issues. They haven't been dealt with. But if I can deal with those, and of course things come up sometimes, of course they do. But if I can deal with them and go to work with a clear conscience and know that it's handled, then I can go to work 100% and do that. And then I want to have my work done before I go to third base, which is community service. I'm not going to be any good to anybody, if I lose my job. And my best job in the world is not going to be any good. My family's a mess. So I just think it's a prioritization of that. And, I say if I can get it all done, it's a home run. But I got to have some priorities. I can't do it all. I have to be able to focus, right? So focus on my work and focus on my family and focus on my job. And then if that's all handled, I'll go try to save the world. But I gotta have it in priority. That's how I try to do it. And I can't say I do it perfectly, but
I like it. You can just see it, right? So you can see how that plays out in your mind. You got that visual representation to correlate to. That's very cool.
It's a good method.
Well, it's been empowering, to realize, and the people that go through my program, just to realize how important your family and friends are. Sometimes we get caught up that our job and our titles and everything are so much, but really it's your family that's there in the end for you, So
yeah,
it's important.
You mentioned your program. What is your program? I mean, what do you offer to people?
Yeah. Well, we do some other shorter things. We're doing a 21-day mindfulness program right now, just 10 minutes a day. The main program we have is a 9-month mindful leadership program, and it's long because it takes a while to set those habits. So we go through and we do community service in that program. We learn meditation. We read some good books. We work on purpose. First phase of it is discovery, really trying to discover who you really are beyond your job and your title. We try to bring who we are to our job, not our job title to who we are. Just because I'm vice president of the bank doesn't mean crap. It's right. Who I am. Who am I as a person? What can I bring? So we work on that, and then we work on setting a new vision for people, because I find people have so often adopted society's vision, which most of society and government are telling us we got to produce things, get GDP up, and consume things. That's what we got to do. Well, and I'm all for it. Producing and consuming. I'm a business guy. I'm an economist. I love it, but it's not a purpose. Right. It helps improve economic development, improve affluence in some ways, but what is our purpose? What do we want to accomplish? So we really try to zero in and have people, develop their own goals, what they want to do, and then set a new vision, and then we launch it. What do you pick one or two of those things, and let's go change your life. Yeah. And try to set some habits. Habits are so important. We work on commitments and habits as a hand in glove. Is my commitments tell me what I want to do? Can I keep them? Habits are really impactful.
Yeah.
They support. And if I have habits which are contrary to my commitments, it's really hard to keep the commitment. So I might have to get rid of some old habits and generate some new habits that are reinforce my commitment. Then always, I go on vacation or I get sick or something, I fall out of a habit. It's my commitments that bring me back again. I get back on. It's been a month, I wasn't able to do it. Well, how do I get started again? Well, I'm committed. I've got it. I come back to it.
There's some stuff you've mentioned about habits that reminds me of the book Atomic Habits.
Oh, it's a great one. James Clear. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
one of the ones we read.
Okay. Yeah. It's in your program.
Yeah.
That's a great book.
One of the interesting things he says in that as I find is one of the pitfalls of people that start a practice, they notice big changes in their life, but they fall off again. He says the biggest what does he word it? The biggest danger is boredom. Okay. And he says professionals learn how to keep making the lifts, even when they're bored. They keep coming to the gym, even when they're bored. Amateurs get bored, they don't come back. So you got to be a professional. You got to keep going through the boredom, and it's your commitments too that can get you back through that.
Yeah, and eventually you sort of punch through that. And I got the book for my wife actually, and I was a little afraid of the title when I first heard it because I misinterpreted the word atomic. I thought it was like big change, atomic bomb change habits. And although you can have atomic bomb size changes in your life, but it's little teeny tiny habits. It's starting with a 2-minute,
Yeah.
intervention.
There's another really good book, if you're interested, by Jeff Olson, called The Slight Edge, which talks about just these little tiny changes over a long period of time. Little tiny things that are bad habits over a long period of time can really erode you. Little tiny things that are good over a long period of time lead to massive success over a long period of time. It's things start small. So
The compound effect, right? We've talked about that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
it is, and they're easy to do and easy not to do.
That's exactly right.
So you got to have some things like your gratitude, a system that has you do them, even though, it'd be easy not to do it that day. You just go. Some days, I got to admit, I go through the motions. I do, but that's 100 times better than skipping it.
You betcha. Oh, yeah.
Then another day, I'm there. I'm ready to do it. And I've got that momentum going. Makes it harder not to do than to do.
Is yoga for you a daily practice, or is
absolutely
every day?
It isn't for everybody,
right?
And I don't teach that you have to do yoga, but some way to get into your body. The body's the first best refuge for the mind, and people think of yoga as stretching a lot of times, and it involves stretching, but it really involves is placing that focused attention in your body. So when you're stretching your calves, you're placing your attention in your calf. So there's also something called the observer effect that shows when we observe something, it changes. So there's a couple different things going on in yoga. I mean, you could be stretching and watching the news, right? Or doing something. That's not yoga.
Right.
Yoga is placing that focused attention into your body. And I call it the first best refuge from the mind, because if I'm trying to slow down this crazy thing, if I can place my body, even when I'm driving my car, I just notice hey, I'm driving my car. Just any of those little things like that, or hey, I'm walking. I'm doing this. Takes me out of here. And there's way more intelligence that we have in our body and our consciousness than we have in our brain. I mean, way more.
Yeah.
We have, our instincts are so strong.
Yeah.
So I strongly suggest, now I'm introducing this year mindful weightlifting in our program, because I'm finding some people are resistant to yoga, and I've decided, well, why don't I meet them where they are? So I found for myself, I used to think that I couldn't be mindful doing weightlifting, but during COVID, my trainer left town, and I went to my own, I put barbells in the garage for a couple of years, and then when the gyms opened back up, I got a new one, and she was saying, hey, slow down, do more reps, lower the weight. Can you feel that muscle firing? Put your attention here. And it was just like, oh, it wasn't weightlifting, it was me. So I think you can, I think powerlifting might be tough, but you can weightlift. At my age, I'm not powerlifting anyway. So, but I think you can do some weightlifting, Pilates, and running. I think there's a lot of things you could do mindfully. Yoga is the science of consciousness, so it is perhaps the best, but whatever you do is the best, I think.
And is there a style? Is there a style that you like? Yeah. What style of yoga do you like to do?
Hatha yoga. I trained at Kripalu in Western Mass. I like that. It's I don't think it matters that much. I mean, some styles like the heated yoga, I think, are more difficult to be mindful.
Yeah.
Because it's more intense, but not impossible if you bring the right mindset.
Yeah.
I don't think it matters that much. What it matters is that you're placing your attention in your body and you're moving.
Okay.
Movement is so important to the brain.
Yeah.
It really is. So I would start slow, a couple minutes.
That's it.
5 or 10 minutes of yoga, maybe get to a class once a week. It would be amazing.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be, and people say, I'm going to do this hour thing every day, and it just wears them out.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And you don't have to. If you can, it's more important to maintain something, even if it's small, than to do this big thing.
Yeah. You mentioned changing up things and doing some weightlifting at home when the gyms were closed because of the pandemic, et cetera. One of the things that's occurred as a result of the pandemic is a lot more people are working remotely.
Yeah.
So and they've talked about the different mental health issues that have come up as a result of that. People spending way more time together, et cetera. How can you use these types of principles, in your opinion, to help in that scenario?
Well, I think companies are struggling and people are struggling. One of the reason, really, when you think about working remotely, companies should love it because they don't have to pay for overhead for people, right? You don't have to have the office space and everything. But really, what I found is that you lose command and control. If you have a command and control environment at work where you got to be watching people and seeing what they're doing and whatnot, remote work's not going to work. But if there's someone that's very self-motivated and doesn't have to be monitored, then remote work can be great. I think mindfulness can help because mindfulness is a culture, and it's a sticky culture, and it's harder if you're not in person, but it is virtual. I mean, it's mindfulness. It is virtual. So you can do some things on Zoom and other things to keep connected. But if you have that culture where you care about people, you care about the community, and you're trying to be mindful and connected, I think it can help keep those things in. And I really think it's coming down that employees need to be able to trust the employers, and therefore the employers have to be able to trust the employees to have a match, for remote work. Because it won't work without trust. It can't. So, and it's not going to work for everybody either. I mean, I think you have to pick those ones that it works for, and some people that doesn't work for, or you may have to move on. But it's here. I mean, it's a fact. It's so many people are loving, people say, I'm not going to have Fridays anymore, or whatever it is, they're
right.
So.
Yeah, now they're fortunate enough to only have to go, one day a week or, one day a month for some.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you save a lot of time, with the commute and getting the right clothes on and all those things, So I don't know, but I know it's a reality. So we're going to have to deal with it. And plus, you're having a hard enough time finding anybody at all. So you're going to have to meet people where they are. If they're qualified and they want to work remote. In this day and age, I think you have to find a way to try to make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. I think every organization is struggling with that to some degree, but I think it really can work. I mean, we do it. Well, we were doing it way before COVID, mostly remote. So things can get along, but you just have to sort of assume now and after COVID that if I'm going to pop in on you on video, it's just like I'm walking into your office. And so that's not this whole thing where that's uncomfortable.
Right.
That's not aggressive to just, ring you on video.
Yeah.
You may not answer, but that's fine. That's no different than me.
And you have to find some things that you're building culture, some events that you're getting together regularly for a lunch, like we've started, a regular monthly lunch at the office, a thing where everybody gets together, and some other things to get people connected, because it is harder to stay connected.
It is.
The other thing I found, it's harder to generate ideas and those kind of things, to do creative work. I find I do real estate development a lot. We get around the room and just kick things around, what about this? What about that? And that I think is harder remote.
Definitely.
So you got to find ways to connect.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. I know you do a lot of, you do a lot of these podcasts and you do seminars and all that kind of stuff. And so for those who you're exposed to for a 30 to 45 minute period of time, like you are here with this, what are the main takeaways that you want people to get out of who you are, what you represent, the message that you're trying to get out there? And what would that be? Or what would those, couple things or handful of things be?
Yeah, I would say that everybody can be mindful. Everybody doesn't have to meditate, but everybody can be mindful. And it's just being considerate and compassionate and caring about other people and paying attention. And with all we got going on, we need to pay attention. So I'd say the other thing the message I have is that business is got the front seat. I think if business could really embrace mindfulness, it could make a huge difference in this country and the world. It could make a difference for themselves, the CEOs and the executive team, for all the employees. Aetna has found, I think it was $2,000 a year savings in healthcare from mindfulness, $3,000 a year increase in productivity from their mindfulness program. It improves the bottom line, it improves quality of life, and it makes things take less time.
Yeah.
Of all the things, you waste less time.
Of all the things you've said, I agree completely. You do get things done much more quickly, and the quality is better. But of all the things you've said tonight, for me personally, I'm just reacting to this.
Right.
This whole idea of, business is the right area to focus on to bring people together, because it involves everybody. I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that before.
It does, man. The business is beautiful.
Okay.
It touches everybody. Can be.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be ugly too if we decide that, but I think business can be beautiful.
Yeah.
It's just providing things for people. And we spend so much time at it.
Yeah.
With the idea that I got to go to work all day so I can have a life when I get home is not acceptable to me.
Okay.
So I want to live all day long.
That's a good way to say it,
I was
too.
going to say, that's beautiful, man. That's a great line right there. I want to live all day long.
There
Absolutely.
Yep.
Not just for the weekend. You make it Monday through Friday. You grind it out, gut it out,
Okay.
get through it so you can go to the pool on the weekends and enjoy that.
My best friends are at work. I love them, man. I was walking down the hall a couple weeks ago, and one of the young guys in the office was talking to one of the guys. I said, "I love you, man." It was like, that doesn't happen. That is so cool. Why not? Why not?
Why not? Yeah.
You spend more time with them. You do your family.
You really do. Yeah. When you place it in that context.
Yeah.
Yep. So what have we not asked you that we need to ask you?
Oh, about my book.
There you go.
Tell us about it.
Yes, please.
I have a book coming out. It'll be pre-sale on Amazon fourth quarter and available in bookstores first quarter next year. It's called Profit with Presence. It's the 12 pillars of mindful leadership. How you can instill this mindfulness in your life and in your business and make a bigger difference. Make more money and make a bigger difference. So go
Very
get
cool.
a copy. Yeah.
Yeah, good luck with that. I'm
I wanna-
certainly looking forward to checking it out.
Yeah, I want to share these concepts, and hopefully more people take it on.
I spent some time today reviewing, just at least the line items of the 12 pillars. And the one that really captured my attention, I think it's number 11. It might be 10 or 11. It's the one about live your life impersonally.
Don't take things personally. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was, and then let life, flow
through you.
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah, just taking it less personal and life's events it's one disaster after another, ending with death.
Yeah.
So why do we get so worried? We think we know we can control what's coming. We can't, man.
Yeah.
It just keeps coming. So learn to surf,
Right.
And on the impersonal thing is that I think we get hung up that people are doing things to get us. And most people are just thinking of themselves. It may impact us,
Yeah.
but we're really not as important as we think, that somebody's out to get us. So if we can just take it as something that's just happened, not to us, hopefully we get to the point that it's happening for us, but at least get to the point where it's just happening.
Right. Yeah.
It just takes the angst out of it. It just takes it, doesn't just hold so much in us. It just holds our energy. We're always insulted, always hurt, always, I hate to be criticized. I get, but if we can just let that flow through us some, we just have a lot more energy.
Yeah.
And
You're
we
right.
can deal with things. So it's a practice. It's not like one and done. I find it's a practice that I have to notice when I'm doing it and just let it go.
There you go.
Yeah, life's a practice, right?
Totally.
So all these
Awesome.
skills we talk about and mindset and mindfulness and so on, it's all a practice. It's not a perfect science. You're not gonna learn it one day and do it right forever from that day forward. No, it's a constant practice, keeping yourself between the guardrails.
No, people say, "Gosh, you must be so enlightened. You're doing all that." I say, "No, you don't get it. I'm crazy. That's why I'm doing it. I'm just trying to keep between the guardrails."
Right.
If I didn't need it, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But I need it. So,
Yeah.
And it's worked for me in my life. It's been an amazing journey.
It's good. You've
Very cool.
instilled the tools and techniques and practices that you need to live a good life, and I think that's what everybody's looking for. That's certainly what we're trying to communicate. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate what you guys are doing. It's awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. We certainly appreciate your time and sharing this quality information. And you mentioned amazing. This is, I think, an amazing conversation.
Yeah. It's been good.
Certainly some good insight that people can take away, some wisdom of the ages that folks can utilize to do things different and produce better outcomes for them in their lives.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for your time, Dr. Eric. We appreciate it greatly. And it was, this is one that I'll go back and listen to a number of times and pull out. There's some really cool nuggets that came out of it. So,
yeah. And one last time, I know we've talked around the subject and so on, but just call out where folks can find you. They want to find more information about
it. The best thing is our website, livinginthegap.org, spelled out, livinginthegap.org. Has free resources there. It has a clip if you want to learn meditation. There's a little clip there that you meditate. There's a list of introductory books that you might get started with. I think there's an introductory yoga if you're interested in that. There's some free resources there. Our programs are there. That's the best place to find out information on us.
All right.
I'm good.
Is it time, Kevin?
It's time.
Is it time for me to reach over here?
It's due.
All right. Great conversation. And remember, no matter who you are, where you are, what you're doing, make sure between this podcast and the next, you take time to enjoy the ride.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Great Beard Chronicles. Please subscribe so you'll receive notification when new episodes are available. To learn more about the Graybeards, visit their website, graybeardchronicles.com.